Welcome to the Workforce Scorecard, a presentation by Ashley Christensen, your Senior Human Resources Executive. A new performance management system will be implemented within our organization. The purpose of this presentation is to introduce and explain what the Workforce Scorecard is, identify our organizational need for the Workforce Scorecard based on its value to the organization and how it will be used, identify the top 2 benefits of the implementation of a Workforce Scorecard, discuss meaningful use of the scorecard concept fully, including what data should be collected, why that data is meaningful, and what that data tells us as an organization. Finally, we will discuss post-implementation in the manner of how we will return this data to the organization. I ask that you please pay strong attention to this presentation as you, our executive and management team members, will be presenting this information to our staff. Our goal is for a relatively seamless and timely implementation. The faster we implement our new Workforce Scorecard, the sooner our organization will become more efficient in its workforce management. The Workforce Scorecard is a performance management system for our human capital, our workforce. The scorecard utilizes metrics, collects data, and allows for measurement of this data, which can then be used for employee development, process improvements, and additional items. Human capital is a huge asset for our organization. As intangible asset, human capital has been historically difficult to measure. According to the Institute of Management and Administration, measurement of human capital has evolved and is now more viable than ever thanks to the Workforce Scorecard. All assets have a return on investment. As mentioned, the scorecard allows us to apply metrics to human capital, one of our intangible assets, which then gives us data our organization can use to calculate the return on investment of our workforce. You may have heard of the Business Scorecard and the HR Scorecard, or the Human Resources Scorecard. The Workforce Scorecard falls in between and combines some important items from these scorecards, allowing successes from the human resources practice to directly and positively affect the customer or the end result. Utilizing a workforce scorecard allows leadership and the organization as a whole to view our employees as a true asset that is worthy of financial support and development. The workforce scorecard allows the organization to align the workforce with the organizational strategy. The need for a stronger performance management system is great within our organization. Implementing and utilizing a workforce scorecard will fill this void and contribute to the success of our organization. The organization wants human resources to place focus on return on investment of our workforce. We need a workforce scorecard to make this possible. Utilizing a workforce scorecard to aid in measurement of ROI will create accountability within human resources and management. If there is a problem, we will have the tools to recognize the need for change. In addition to accountability, lines of communication between the workforce, human resources, and management are currently lacking. The Workforce Scorecard will provide us a tool to open up the lines of communication by giving us viable items to discuss. With the generational gap starting to affect our organization, there is a need to thoroughly review each position and determine the necessary competencies and skills needed to fill those positions. This will also help us eliminate redundancy between departments and positions, as we can identify if any similar processes, procedures, and tasks are being completed by multiple people. An in-depth description of each position will aid the organization in recruiting qualified individuals. Knowing the retainage and turnover metrics for positions will help us to tailor the person and/or the position to work smarter to better meet organizational objectives. The final need of the Workforce Scorecard is for our organization to place focus on workforce development. The Workforce Scorecard increases performance management and allows management to recognize the need for competency development. Not only does this aid in making the workforce better in the positions they are currently in, this allows us to develop the workforce to fill the gaps the current retiree generation will be leaving. In other words, this allows us to place focus on succession planning. The primary benefits were just identified. The first primary benefit is increasing the workforce's return on investment. This is done by first defining positions, eliminating redundancies, and creating a way to increase recruitment efforts. Second, the human capital working in the defined positions will meet the skill and competency level of the said position. If they do not, the organization will invest in their development. The Workforce Scorecard will aid in our endeavor to identify and increase ROI by allowing the organization to identify quality information in less time compared to other performance management systems. Developing employees will increase productivity while making sure organizational objectives are being met while executing the strategy. Development investment will also be done in order to secure the future of the organization through succession planning. As discussed, the current generation of retirees is a large one, which will be leaving a generational gap not only in our organization but in the workforce across the country. It is necessary to recruit and retain the right individuals from the younger generations. The Workforce Scorecard will aid in this by again defining positions, identifying necessary skills and competencies, and aiding management in developing our human capital. We place focus here on employee development and advancement, which will aid in successful succession planning. In order to make the Workforce Scorecard work for our organization, we have defined a number of metrics that will provide important tools for evaluation. The first metric is employee turnover rate for the first 90 days and then again at 1 year. This data is meaningful because effective metrics provide important tools for evaluating the success of human capital strategies in maintaining workforce effectiveness and achieving long-range personnel objectives. So what does this employee turnover rate data tell us? Evaluating the employee turnover rate will help determine what type of people are being hired and which ones are turning over. This will help the organization determine if the right individuals are being hired to match the definition of the position, comparing the competencies and skills required to that of the employee. Or perhaps if our onboarding and our training methodology needs to be adjusted to assure success of our new hires. Understanding the reason for turnover can solve many problems down the line that affect overall employee retainage and succession planning. The additional data to be collected include benefits and cash compensation cost, as well as retirement eligibility and succession depth. This data is meaningful because these are all structural cost metrics that aid in right sizing the organization. So what does this data tell us? Benefits and cash compensation cost are an important metric to take into consideration so organizations can understand how new and retained employees are affecting the finances. Retirement eligibility and succession depth may also influence structural cost when it comes to compensation packages for new employees. Depending on the cost of recruiting new generation employees, We are more than ever being pushed to evaluate what positions may be left open due to retirement eligibility, which of these positions really need to be filled, and if they shouldn't be considered for replacement. And also how that work can be distributed to work smarter if those positions aren't going to be replaced. Knowing the succession depth of our organization is necessary. We pride ourselves on employee development and hiring from within. The succession depth shows our ability to hire from within and also allows us to plan on which positions we should seek external applicants from as well, and how to fill or reposition best to decrease our turnover rates. The generational gap is increasing the numbers of eligible retirements while our succession depth is declining. We feel that the development of our workforce scorecard can help proactively identify and address these concerns while preparing us for success in the years to come. Another item that we will measure is individual and position-based productivity using different metrics in different situations. Efficiency is important because it relates to cost and production time, and we can implement metrics to track completion time for repetitive tasks and accuracy levels. Training new employees or continuous training for existing employees is an important metric to track. Evaluating employee training can help the employee be the best they can be, or show us where and how we need to update our training methods. Continuous training for employees and required training can be tracked and followed up efficiently. We plan to tie our required training directly with the workforce scorecard for management to have an at-a-glance view of how their new trainees and current employees are doing with this required training. We can set goals ahead of time and create individual goals based on performance reviews, and we are looking for employees to increase productivity and efficiency over time. Each metric used to evaluate individuals will help the organization develop and improve the workforce as a whole to better meet objectives and increase operational efficiency. So what does this data tell us as an organization? Capturing data on individuals based on their positions, we can evaluate productivity and efficiency. The United States Office of Personnel Management states the 5 key components of performance management are planning, monitoring, developing, rating, and rewarding. The Workforce Scorecard is a tool that allows us to set goals and measures, monitor this performance, and provide timely feedback to our employees, base employee development and goal setting on these measures, rate this performance, and provide a basis for employee recognition. This places focus on the workforce, utilizing measurable performance data to make the workforce better ultimately, and leads to achieved objectives. Skill level correlates with financial success, and if employees' skill levels are not up to par, the workforce scorecard will help us realize their competencies require development, and we can go through these 5 key components of performance management. Human capital success and organizational costs are measured with varying metrics, but the information comes together to create a complete view of the organization and our maintenance of the workforce and how we are performing. John Lopez Ona discusses exactly what will be done post-implementation, or how the data is put back into the organization. This is a cyclical process that is never ending as the strategic focus of the organization shifts. So do the metrics on our workforce scorecard. We will continually audit the measurements, develop new measures as necessary, apply the new measures, and analyze and report on the results. Based on the results, we implement improvement plans to decrease the turnover rate of new hires, plans to increase employee retainage, etc. We will then continue to track the metrics, focus on continuous improvement, revisit the scorecard as needed to update based need, and make sure the workforce is working for the organization, and in turn, the organization is investing in the workforce. The Workforce Scorecard gives us the capacity to do this at an organizational and individual level, placing focus on the workforce, utilizing measurable performance data to make the workforce better, ultimately leads to achieved objectives. Skill level correlates with financial success, and if employees' skill levels are not up to par, the Workforce Scorecard will help us realize their competencies require development. Implementing the scorecard allows our organization to place focus and spend resources on developing employees' skill sets so they will become more efficient in executing strategy and correlate positively with financial success, shown through the return on investment. The Workforce Scorecard keeps human resources as well as management accountable for a successful workforce. To recap, the Workforce Scorecard is a performance management tool capturing metrics and utilizing data to aid in achieving organizational objectives and executing the strategy. There is an outstanding need for our organization to implement a stronger performance management system. The Workforce Scorecard will aid us in determining return on investment of our human capital, keep us accountable, open communication lines, and eliminate redundancy across the board. In addition, the Workforce Scorecard will aid in recruitment, retainage, employee development, and succession planning. The top two benefits include utilizing data to determine return on investment and make changes as necessary to increase it, and aiding the organization in successful succession planning, as we know this is becoming increasingly difficult with the generational gap. During the first phase of implementation, we have determined which metrics will be identified and how they will contribute meaningfully to the organization, as well as how we plan to successfully return this data to the organization and really make the Workforce Scorecard work for the organization. Thank you for your time today. We look forward to implementing the new Workforce Scorecard and are very excited about the successes it will bring to our workforce and our organization. At this time, I would like to welcome any questions and open up for further discussion. Thank you again for your time today.